again, this is Nina Dilbeck, Director of the Home Economics Careers and Technology Professional Development Project at Fresno State. Welcome to the Connecting the Dots for Student Success in Culinary Arts Mexican Cuisine webinar. Our webinar today is coming to you through live feed through the Fresno State website. Our special thanks to Eric West, Information Technology Consultant with Technology Innovations for Teaching and Learning at Fresno State. He's our camera tech along with Randy Haar, and they will be also recording this for, so that you can review the webinar at any time you want. I'll be sending out a link in the next couple of days to that recording, and also along with that I'll be sending an evaluation which I would appreciate you filling out after you have viewed the webinar. For our reporting process to the State Department of Education, we need that kind of data. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please text them to me at 559-349-5826. The phone number will be on screen throughout the program. So please, if you have anything to ask the chef, let us know. And today our presenter is Chef Klaus Tenbergen, the director of the culinology program here at Fresno State, and assisting him is a senior culinology program student, Jennifer Lamb. And we want to thank them in advance for being here, and they've done a lot of preparation, and I know that you're going to get a lot of great information to take back to your students. Chef?
Thank you, Nina. Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited to teach you how to implement Mexican cuisine into the classroom. You probably asked why a German is trying to teach Mexican. Well, there's a simple explanation for that. I try to look at my student body, and I come to the realization that we here at Fresno State at least have 53% of Hispanic students. So it's an easy way to connect with your students and to involve them heavily into what they already know. So it's a nice introduction to this. Now, we created several things, and I hope the ambitious menu we have created for you, that we have enough time in the next 60 minutes to go through all of this. I'm also going to give you some ideas about teaching tips, how to teach it, why to teach it, and how to organize your classroom so you can be well prepared for this. So to get going on this without further delay, I created myself obviously a little lesson plan menu, which we all have to have. And I looked at the total preparation time of everything. There's items which we do, which going to be the Mexican hot chocolate, which going to take minutes. There is things we're going to talk about, which is the difference between Mexican and American Coca-Cola. It's also a little filler, which we're going to do on the side. And then things which take preparation, which would be the Mexican rice, the hibiscus tea, and the tortillas. Depending on your teaching style, depending on how you teach, it is maybe doable that you do groups of students working on different projects. But if you want to do one at a time and want to create the whole thing, that's what we do here in an hour, you make and split up over several days and categorize them, maybe do one day of drinks, one day of a full meal, which consists of a protein, a vegetable, and a starch, one day of salads, and one day of traditional baking, which would be anything like the tortillas. So let's get going here. I'm actually going to ask the help of Jennifer to do the first recipe. And the reason for this is I expect my students to be prepared in the sense of I post the recipes, I hand out the recipes the week before, the day before, whatever the case may be, I do it via Blackboard. I expect the students to print out the recipe, bring it to class, and read the recipe, read through the recipe. I think that's very important, so they have already a mental mindset where they know right from the get-go, this is what's going to be on the menu, this is going to be what's happened in the classroom that day, and they already can formulate some questions if needed, which is not clear to the students ahead of time. So today, the first thing we're going to make on our menu is going to be Mexican red rice with cheese. Jennifer, what is the first step we have to do?
Well, the first step is to soak the rice in hot water for 15 minutes.
Okay, because of my time constraint, what I did ahead of time, I actually took the liberty and did this. So I took the rice, soaked it in hot water for 15 minutes, and then strained it. Okay? There's many ways of doing these kind of things. One is we have here also in the little test kitchen, we have a gas burner, stovetop. We have at Fresno State, we have induction cookers. Or here, in our case, we're going to use a little portable stovetop. The nice thing about this is it's already, it's movable, so you can move it to different stations, you can move it around in the kitchen, and at the end of the day, you can put it away in its place and it's out of sight. And if you don't need it the next time because you're making paninis, you're making salads, it's not in the way for anybody to work with. Step number 1.
Is to heat the, well, actually it's to, in the blender, over there you want to combine the onion, garlic, jalapenos, and tomato puree.
Again, you know, I have the luxury to have a nice Vitamix blender. Sometimes these are not available, but it shouldn't stop you from making this recipe, because you can just take simply a hand blender, or if everything, if nothing is available, then you can even use a grinder and or chop it very finely. It just takes more time. So I start with my onions, which are peeled and quartered, throw them in the machine, as well as the garlic. Depending on the amount of heat you like, you can take the chilies and devein them and also take the seeds out. I like a lot of heat. And I do my tomato sauce. Now, I'm very much into using the appropriate tools for the appropriate task. So a little spoon on the side, tasting spoons work well. The tasting spoons are not only there for me to scrape out as much as possible, they're also there for the students to taste. I do not like students using plastic spoons and we throw them in the garbage. I rather like to have real spoons and they can get washed and reused. So there's many ways of saving also on money. What we want to do is whenever we start a blender, just like driving a car, we want to make sure that the lid is secured and always start in the lowest possible setting. The beauty of this blender is a little bit noisy, but it's got a little stick which is going to help you incorporating everything. And that's the whole mixing process. I'll remove the lid for now, take it aside. And I also teach always clean as you go, because it's important that the students learn the organization of the whole, the kitchen. Then the next step is?
To heat the oil in the pan.
Heat the oil in the pan. I actually preheated my pan. And it's a lot of oil. It seems like a lot of oil. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rice, which was again soaked for 15 to 20 minutes in water. And once the oil is heated, how do I see if the oil is heated? Well, the way you can teach this is instead of anybody taking a guess or the smoke goes up in, the oil goes up in smoke, take a kernel of rice, just drop it in. If you hear the noise and the sizzling, you know the oil is hot enough. And it's heated so fast because I preheated my pot ahead of time. I'm a little bit out of conscious to my time. And then I want to stir this around for a little bit. I also want to make sure that I always have a side towel, carry it, because these pots are hot. And if they're hot, people get burnt. So safety is of most important in the kitchen. Normally, if I do a demonstration, I will do it myself. If I have the students do this, then obviously the students would take over the task and take an eye on it so I can be in other places and do other things at the same time. Now, the biggest key to being successful in this is preparation ahead of time. So all this little dicing and chopping and measuring out the ingredients, it takes an enormous amount of time. It actually takes more time than the actual cooking process. And then obviously the cleaning afterwards, it's also a big task. So you need to take that in consideration when you teach this in a 45-minute or an hour, 30 minutes class, that these things have to get done as well. Or, like in my case, I prepped it with Jennifer together ahead of time, so then we become very efficient and can actually achieve this whole thing in the amount of time we have to lecture. I'm using the same pot. I'm talking about efficiency. I'm using the same pot to drain the excess oil out of the rice, which is the next step. And after this, once I got the rice nicely browned, what are we going to do next, Jennifer?
You're going to put the rice back into the pot, and then you're going to add the tomato mixture right over here in the blender, and you're going to stir it to combine and let it simmer for another minute.
Okay. So the other thing is also that because the rice takes the longest, I want to start it obviously right in the beginning. I also want to make sure that I don't have too much excess oil if there's any. And in this case, there is a little. Be careful, oil is hot, oil splashes. Okay, so I want to be careful. I drain the excess oil out of this as much as possible. And patience is a virtue here. Takes a little bit of time. Once I got this done, put it back on the heat. Thank you. Using a rubber spatula, put my tomatoes in here, and that's why it's called red rice, because this also gets me all the flavor and the color in the rice. Now we're going to serve this later on with some chuletas and grilled pineapple, which is a typical dish. And again, you want to steer it. Careful, the handles are hot. Steer it around, cook it for an additional minute. And then we add to this our water, which is the liquid. And you can see already the beautiful color of the rice. And yes, it's going to be very tasty. Now, I traveled a lot through Mexico in the last semester due to my sabbatical leave. And what I did is I did a couple of things. I bring back ingredients. So in this case, I have here a bag of salt. I actually harvested myself. It comes from Colima, close to the coast. It's a great way to show and tell to the students about a trip you made or hopefully going to make or things you researched. It's a great way of incorporating things they already know. And if you look at the salt, it's very rough and very coarse because it's sea salt, which is harvested right there in Colima. I add a little bit of salt to it. And then I look at the rest of the ingredients. And my rest of the ingredients is now carrots.
So you want to add your chicken bouillon to your water.
I forgot totally about my chicken. See, this is another thing. So I really know it's okay to make a mistake as a teacher. You know, we get so busy, we focus, but then there are so many things going on. We have about 50, 60 items prepped here together, and we want to make sure that everything in. So by them, they know I'm going to ask Jennifer again what is next, and she's going to keep me on track. So she is going to make me look good, which is a nice thing. But they're also paying attention because they never know at what time I'm going to ask them during the lecture what the next step are. So they need to be prepared mentally, which is really important. So I'm going to take my chicken bouillon, dissolve it in water, and the reason for this is it helps me with easy distribution in the rice. That is about the minute it takes for the rice and for the other ingredients I just added to be incorporated. Okay, once it's fully absorbed, oops, I make a little bit of a mess, but even that is okay. Put all of this into the rice. Give it a quick stir. And again, you know, always clean as you go. You don't want to have any spills on the table. I always say to the students that I want to work in a way that is acceptable to them. We have the big responsibility to prepare food in a way that is safe to the consumer, and we want to make sure that we reflect the way we cook in the end product. So if you work clean like this and you clean as you go, it doesn't look like I did anything by now, that at the end of the day, people say, well, I would eat the food. So you want to feel good about it. Then in no particular order, we got a peas, corn, and obviously it's not the best way to use glass bowls. I prefer actually stainless steel bowls in the kitchen, because if the glass falls down, it breaks, it creates a big mess. So for food safety aspects, I'm actually like to use stainless steel bowls. The only reason why I'm using glass bowls here, so the viewer can actually see what we're doing and how we're doing things. Okay. Now, if you can see this, I don't know if the camera can pick it up. Look at the beautiful colors of this. Beautiful colors, and it tastes even better than it looks. So that's it. I'm going to move it due to space constraints. I'm going to move it off the side to my other cooker. I cover it slightly. I'm going to lower the heat all the way down, and I'm going to move it to the other side and replace it with the next thing we're going to do now is, which is on our menu, which is the Aqua Fresco, which is a hibiscus flower tea. To make the hibiscus flower tea, again, it is a thing which takes 20 minutes to do, which means you bring water to a boil, which is currently at a full boil. And you see I'm always using my side towel. These things are cheap to obtain. You can buy them in the store, any color. I normally like to use whites instead of brown ones. And then to this, I'm going to add my hibiscus flower, which is 2 ounces in this case. All these recipes are available, will be available. Nina will promise me that she will mail them out to you if there's a need for that. And that's my preparation for my hibiscus tea, where I'm just going to seep my hibiscus flower into the hot boiling water. Now the rest of this contains of more drinking water, sugar, and then it's ready to serve and ready to go. So again, you know, in the beginning when I discussed the menu with Nina, I said, well, you're going to do all of these 10 things in class? I said, yes, it's possible, it's doable. But as from an educational standpoint, you obviously can talk about hibiscus flower, where they come from, what the difference is between dried hibiscus flowers and fresh hibiscus flower, the beautiful color and the beautiful taste. Look at the beautiful color. Beautiful color, which then is something which is typical, a typical drink in Mexico, which you can drink not only hot, but also cold in the summer months. So there's 2 ways of doing this. Okay, so in the meanwhile...
Excuse me, Chef. Are hibiscus flowers easy to purchase here in the States?
Yes, they actually are. They're surprisingly, they're very cheap. I was doing some hibiscus cookies, and I thought, you know, I cannot source these ingredients. But they're actually available, in our case here in town, at... it's in the tip of my tongue. Vallarta has it, which is a Mexican specialty store. So you can find them there. You can find them on the internet, but also I find them at Cost Plus, or even places like the big chains, not like Safe Mart and these kind of things. There's an area in the supermarket which concentrates on Mexican spices, and that's part of it, and that's where it's easily available.
Thank you.
So another thing which is the basic in Mexican cuisine is obviously tortillas. And if you ever watched the Food Network, or you see or eaten in a Mexican restaurant, you obviously get tortillas all the time. Tortillas consist of corn flour. It's already pre-measured here. And all it is 3 basic ingredients. A little bit of salt as a flavor enhancer, and the water, which is in proportion to the flour. And all I have here is extra flour in case my dough gets too dry. So all you have to do is for about 2 minutes, knead the dough, bring it all together. And kneading the dough is actually something which is really nice. And it's really nice for the students to do. And it's going to take them a little longer maybe. And all you can do is you can feel it. You can feel the mesa and feel it and forms into a little ball like this. Then you know you're right on track. I obviously like to use bowl scrapers, which gives me the opportunity to scrape not only my wooden spoon down, but everything else as well. So I incorporate the dry and the wet ingredients, then incorporate everything together. And this little bit, again, it's a very cheap item to make. If you look at the food cost of this, for 32 tortillas, it doesn't cost you more than about 50 cents. And you know, this tortillas, making 16 tortillas, goes a long way. Now, you don't want to have it too wet, you don't want to have it too dry, so I'm adding 1 tablespoon water at a time if I do think it is too wet. And you can look at the total amount used, divided by 32, then you can actually give the students an idea of how much they should use for each of the tortillas. And when you have it formed into a nice ball like this, after 2 minutes, then you're all ready to go. Now, there's 2 ways of doing this. One way is to have them use a scale and talk about being precision in the kitchen. So if it's an ounce, it needs to be exactly an ounce. Normally, tortillas are made into golf ball sizes, but you can also use, I had it here somewhere, an ice cream scoop. Because an ice cream scoop is not actually an ice cream scoop, it's known as a portion control scoop. So this controls my portions, and depending on the size of the tortilla press I have, you could either have the students to learn consistency, form a dough ball like this, have it re-rolled, and then to prevent it from drying out, you want to make sure that you cover the dough with some plastic. Tortilla presses are available in all different kind of sizes and excuse me, in all different kind of sizes. I choose to use a bigger one because it just lasts me longer. Place a tortilla ball in the middle between 2 sheets of plastic, and all I did is I took a Ziploc bag, cut the edges off, so it helps with the distribution of the dough. Close the lid and gently press it down, all the way down until you feel resistance. Open it up again, and you have a perfectly made tortilla, just like this. Now, the beauty on this is it will peel off right away because I'm using the plastic, so it doesn't stick to anything. It's a very efficient way to do this. Now, there's this way of doing it. We have a preheated, non-oiled pan over here, and you just put it on the pan while you're making the next one. So you can actually establish a little assembly line. Again, while 1 or 2 students are weighing out the portion sizes, the next student could potentially do the pressing of the tortillas. And they're very used to this, especially the Hispanic students, because that's what they eat at home and that's what they do at home. And besides this, I'm going to use pre-made or pre-bought tortilla chips. See how easy this is? Piece of plastic, Ziploc bag. And yes, you can use saran wrap as well, but saran wrap is thinner, the plastic is thinner, so I like to use the really heavy one. Beautiful tortilla, right size, right? And we're going to keep doing this a little bit. So we got some tortillas later on, which we're going to use for our food we're going to create. Now, remember, I have 2 things going on besides the tortillas. I have my rice, which I'm going to ask Jennifer to give it a quick stir. So I'm making sure that my rice is not burning, and I have it covered with a lid. I took it off side. And then the second thing is I have my hibiscus tea, and you know, if it's 15 minutes or 20, 21, 22 minutes, it doesn't make a big difference, but I do want to strain the hibiscus flower out of them as soon as I'm close to my 20 minutes. See? Easy stuff to make, beautiful to do. We're going to make a couple more because we actually want to eat this later on. As you can see, they don't stick. A dry skillet, right? They don't stick at all. And then, if needed, you will see later on, they're going to brown a little bit, but they're also going to brown and they're going to puff up a little bit. So we're going to keep doing this. And as I said, I started doing this. It makes about 32 tortillas. This takes them maybe a whole class period where making the dough, measuring the ingredients, mixing the dough together, pre-portion them, cook them, and then eat them with some ready-bought salsa would be appropriate for one lecture. The other lecture you can do is you can make the salsa, make the guacamole, and once the guacamole and the salsa is done, you're using these tortillas as tortilla chips, which you can then cut into wedges, deep fry if you want to, or bake it if you want to make a healthier version, and then use it together with the salsa. So you do one day the dough, depending on how much time you have and how much time you allow, and the next day you're using it to make the different kind of salsas. Okay, so let me put this aside here, so we can actually go in with our next thing. So next on the menu is, well, we have a couple of choices, and the choices is, actually it's not a choice in my eyes, it's resetting your station. It's wiping down your surface, making sure everything is acceptable, right? And then instead of working with one student, it would be obviously appropriate to ask somebody else. Now somebody else doesn't know, if you have a group of 20 students, who the next student is you're going to ask to interact with you and to ask to help you in the assistance of the preparation of the next mix. So we still have the pico de gallo, we have also the guacamole, and we have the napales. The napales, let's do this first because it's a very easy, quick way of making a salad and talk about different ingredients. We can talk about white onions versus yellow onions. We can talk about the difference between a plum tomato and a Roman tomato. We can talk about how to cut and dice and mince garlic. We can talk about the different heat levels of different chilies, and taking the seed out, taking the membrane out, or leaving it in, and what the difference is between the two. And what I do is also, I use different chilies, and I make the same batch if I work in groups 6 times, and I use different chilies, and then I let them do a tasting comparison to see why the one is spicier than the other, and why the one is more acceptable to them. So it depends on the season, obviously. We have here nopalititos, which are little pre-cut, marinated cactus pieces, which I just have available as, again, these are tender cactus pieces in a glass jar. I obviously prefer fresh stuff. However, depending on the seasonality, sometimes you have to make adjustments, and I made an adjustment today because the ones which were available, they were just not acceptable for me to use today, so I didn't want to use it. So they're also seasoned and pre-seasoned, so I don't want to add too much more to this. As a teaching tip, it's a good moment to talk about recycling and throwing these things in the garbage and figuring out why, what, when, and how to do this. Using some onions. What I like to do is, when I make these kind of things, I like to cut everything more or less into the same sizes. So I looked at the original cactus, and they were sliced in about these pieces, so bite-sized pieces. And then obviously I sliced my onions very close to this. I had some tomatoes, like this. Okay, some chilies. Fresh garlic. This may be a little bit too much. Cilantro, fresh cilantro. Again, all these flavors, and you will find this again and again and again everywhere, they come from specific flavors. And in this case, you hardly can make a meal which doesn't contain any cilantro. And it's a really nice way to do this. I'm also looking, and I'm going to speak about this when we talk about the pico de gallo, about the colors of the Mexican flag. And as you may know or may not know, they are green, red, and white. And so I try to resemble that into the ingredients. You just want to do a rough shop. You can also talk about knife skills. You can talk about knife sharpening, honing a knife. All of these kind of things you can use as a teachable moment to extend on the techniques used. And it's also always a good idea, and I like to do this also, if you have students who never tried cilantro, for example, to pass out a little leaf of cilantro and let them actually smell it, rub it between their fingers so it releases their natural oils, and eat a piece so they actually know what to expect. Okay? Then I'm going to use tapatio, which is a hot sauce. A lot of Mexican dishes are made with hot sauce, so I put in here, I like it spicy obviously, and if it's a new bottle, Takes a little bit longer. There we go. And again, what I empathize on is using tasting spoons. So as soon you have a dish made, make sure that the students taste it. There should never be a dish going out or being served which has not been tasted ahead of time. And as you realized, I haven't added the cilantro to it, and I haven't added any salt to it, salt or pepper or any kind of seasoning. The reason for this, very simple. I'm using processed / canned cactus leaves, and I want to taste how they are taste first and how much salt is in the brine, and to figure out how much I need to add at the end to make it acceptable, as well as the heat. So I'm going to taste it. I want to make sure that I got a little piece of everything on my spoon. I personally taste a lot of heat, which is nice. I taste a very salty, not very salty, a pleasant salty salad. And now all there is to do, in my eyes, there's enough salt in it. Scrape it on the sides a little bit. Finish it off with my cilantro. Give it some nice color and flavor as well. And then again, I got a beautiful salad which has a lot of different flavors in your mouth. You taste the garlic, you taste the cilantro, you taste the spiciness, you taste the brine. So it's a beautiful thing. Obviously, we want to take this and refrigerate it so it can marinate a little bit. And later on, when we have all the dishes ready, I'm going to serve it as part of our total main dish. Or just in case, like now, you can talk about family dinners, about community, and make this as part of your whole meal. But very nice, very tasty. I could eat some more right now. Anyway, so the 20 minutes are gone by. I want to look at my hibiscus flower. And again, you're going to see this beautiful color I have. I obviously want to use a clean spoon. There's another clean spoon. Look again, look at this beautiful, beautiful color of the hibiscus. It has a pungent flavor to it. Now, I already got my sugar here, which is my sweetener. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pour the liquid through a sifter in here. It's like this. Okay. You asked about the price, or somebody asked about the price early on. Surprisingly enough, I used the hibiscus twice. So I can make another batch of tea out of this using the same hibiscus. I want to make sure that with the hot water, I'm going to dissolve my sugar, which is my sweetener. Okay, give it a nice stir. Jennifer, if you would please give me some more tasting spoons, which is important. And then again, you can talk about different measurements. You can talk about, if you want to review the web seminar we did last time about culinary maths, about measurements and this amount and the meniscus. I'm using drinking water. I don't even use tap water, depending where you are in the state. It may or may not be appropriate. Now, as you can realize, or as you realize, one bottle, if I would have filled it up, is exactly 2 cups. 2 bottles makes 4 cups, right? And I need 6 cups in total. So I do need another bottle of water. There's one more bottle, please. Again, it's a great way to talk about recycling and CRV in this case. Now, if you want to drink the tea immediately, it would be appropriate to serve the tea over ice and serve it right now. But again, look at the beautiful color of this. It's got a minimal amount of sugar in there. Yes, you do need some sweetness. And again, you want to taste it. So if you like to have a little bit sweeter, perfect. Just need to make sure that Nina doesn't get hold of this, because then it's all gone. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator. Again, that goes together with our salad. So later on, we have it all well chilled and all together. Okay. you have to sometimes stop and think. In my case, I'm just thinking, what else I have cooking? Obviously my rice. So I want to make sure that the rice, depending on what kind of rice you're using, is going to become tender. So Jennifer is going to go over to our little side stove and give it a quick mix to make it ensure that nothing is burning. If all the liquid is absorbed, and again, taste the rice. You can taste if it still has a crunch or not. If the rice is nice and soft and tender, you can switch it off and let the rice rest, and it's going to be appropriate and ready to go once we are doing this. Okay, now, if you have a time filler like now, Jennifer, would you post me the Coca-Cola, please? I love these bottles. I love these bottles because they remind me sort of my childhood. When I grew up, we didn't have cans, we had bottles. So my first interest in this Coke were not about the can or what is in here, but rather about the look of this. So if you search it, you can find it in basically every grocery store here, especially in California, and Coke. But this Coke, if you look very closely, it has a sticker on. A sticker always means there's some additional information. A sticker normally means that this item is imported and that the labeling on this bottle is in a different language. I know this because I buy a lot of German food, especially during Christmas time, which reminds me of home. But then I look and it's all written in German, and to ensure that the consumer here in the US is educated about what's in the product, they are obligated to put a sticker on. So if you actually look at the sticker, there's a difference. Now, you could do a taste test. You can say to the students, you know, have you ever tasted a Coke like this? Or actually bring an American Coke and a Mexican Coke and let them taste it. And you will realize that if you do a taste test, that about half of the people prefer the one and half of the people prefer the other one. It's the same with Pepsi and Coke if you don't compare something like this. But the reality of things is it's not about the Coke. It's not about the sugary drinks. You can address obesity. You can say, you know, Mexico currently has a problem. They are ranked #1 in obesity in the world. They have the highest rate of obesity throughout the country. And actually, funny enough, I just returned from Mexico last week, and I realized that they serve Coca-Cola in the schools. And serving in the schools, I'm actually surprised, especially with the young kids, K to 12. Come to find out that the government says now, yes, they can drink Coke, but they have to drink small bottles. So they have miniature version of Coke bottles. But the irony of this whole thing is they don't drink one, now they drink 3. So they actually drink more than they ever drank before, just because they have it available. But let them taste it, so you can talk about taste testing, and then let them compare the nutritional label. And come to find out that one of the Cokes is made with cane sugar, and one of the Cokes is made with anybody knows? High fructose corn syrup, which is a big difference. And it has a big difference not only in empty calories, or they're all empty calories, but it makes a big difference in the taste. It makes a big difference in the carbonation. If you have Mexican Coke, it's way more carbonated than American Coke, and it's way sweeter. And the reason for this is, in the US, we tend to drink our soft drinks with a lot of ice, which dilutes some of the drinks. Once the water or the ice starts melting, it becomes water. In the other case, if you drink this just like this, it doesn't tend to be that sweet. So you can talk about sensory evaluation, consumer acceptance testing, ingredients, labels, glass bottles versus cans, and all of these kind of things. That's why I brought this Coke here. So, another quick dish, which again, you know, I'm doing it very quick. But sometimes we don't have to do rocket science. And part of it is when I went to Puebla, I saw how they make hot chocolate. They actually have in the stores cocoa beans. They take the cocoa beans, they grind them together with sugar and spices, in most cases, cinnamon or vanilla. And cinnamon and vanilla, you can actually pick your spices. And if you haven't seen this, we normally see this in small varieties. This is actually bark of a cinnamon tree, which is a nice spice to use because it's renewable. So once you take the bark off, it actually grows back. So it's very sustainable. It has a very nice pungent smell, and if you pulverize this, you have probably the best cinnamon you can ever wish for. So you can talk about cinnamon, about where cinnamon is grown, what cinnamon does. And then you have, when you go into the specialty stores, the arboletia, which is made by an American company, Nestle, but it has the typical Mexican label on it. And you find this not only here in the US, but you also find this in Mexico. It's actually the other way. It was first done for the Mexican market and then imported here as well. Again, the labeling is interesting because it's in both languages. So you can talk about this and do a comparison, look at the nutrition, and look at the nutritional fact label, which is another lecture and everything altogether. Okay? One of those little pellets, they come in pellet. Again, it's always advisable that students smell the ingredients they have. So cut off a little bit of this, and you will realize that it's got like white flakes in here. And the white flakes is actually granulated sugar. So this comes, it's compressed, it's granulated sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, and cacao or cocoa beans, which are done. And then again, you know, pass it around, let the students smell it so they can smell already the spices, ask them to try to identify the spices, and then all it's done, there's many ways of doing it. One way is you're using half milk and half water. I personally like milk all the way. Some people even make it with water, which in my case doesn't have the body because it's missing the fat in it. So you submerge this into the hot milk, and all you have to do is, and you can ask somebody to do it for you, just stir it gently until all of this chocolate is dissolved. Then I normally take it off the heat, let it cool down a little bit so you don't burn your lips when drinking this, and serve it, and I will show you that later, with a little cinnamon stick as decoration in a nice cup, just like this, with, obviously, because I'm a sucker for that, is heavy whipped cream, which then you can talk about milk, dairy products, different fat contents, half and half, whole milk, 2%, vitamin D added milks. And as you see, it melts very, very quickly and very fast. Again, always safety. When you stir something, I always advise the students to stir with one hand and to hold the pot with the other. So in case the pot falls down, some people are right-handed, the handle goes in the left or vice versa. In this case, the handle is covered with a coating, which prevents it from direct contact to the metal. In the other cases we had early on, we have pots which have just a straight handle, which conduct heat. Want to be very careful when you use mittens or a side towel to ensure that this is taken care of. Okay, so as you can see, I did the Mexican chocolate, the Coca-Cola, and I'm going to do one more thing, which is very, very super, super fast. But I know everybody's going to love this, and it's like thinking way outside the box. So if Jennifer would please pass me on my chocolate sauce, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. I also have some ice cream available, which is going to happen a little bit later, but it's all in preparation of putting the whole meal together when we have about 10 minutes left. Chocolate fudge, syrup, chocolate syrup, anything will do. Now, everybody loves this on top of their ice cream. And I actually give it a Mexican twist on a simple thing like chocolate sauce. So the consistency is perfect. It's really going to throw the students off, because who would have thought that you can take chipotle, smoked chipotles in adobe sauce. This is a very common brand available throughout North and South America. Again, teaching moment, remove the lid completely. This is just as sharp as a knife. If you don't remove it, you may going to get cut. The probability is very high. The other thing is also, once you open a can, you always want to remove the contents, move it into a bowl you can store in the refrigerator, and then label it appropriately so you can talk about food safety and food labeling as well. Okay, so you want to take one or two of these smoked chipotles out. They come in adobe sauce, so they actually have a smoky flavor to them. This is about the amount of, oopsie, poopsie. That's okay. Teachable moment. What is the teachable moment about this? Well, milk molecules start expanding when exposed to heat, and if they're covered, they have nowhere to go, so they will run over, end of the day. And I'm perfectly fine with making mistakes in the kitchen labs, in the labs, because this is how students learn. They don't learn because we get it right and we don't know why we got it right. They learn by making mistakes. Now the key to this is making a mistake, analyzing why it happened, then redo it and never make the mistake again. And it's the same as writing or taking a test. What students remember is not the questions they got right, it's the questions they got wrong. And obviously, nothing to panic about. Nobody's perfect. Too many things going on, right? Especially as a teacher. And don't make yourself look bad in any way. There's no reason to it. Just take it, step back and say, what just happened? So you use it. Okay, again, knife skills. Very nice thing to do, very nice thing to teach. And it's a 2-ingredient recipe. And for this, there's actually no recipe. All there is, it's an idea. It's an idea I came across by thinking about how do I incorporate Mexican flavor notes into a typical American menu creation. So I'm going to add my minced chilies and adobe sauce. I don't add all of them yet, but I add some. And I just incorporate it into my chocolate sauce. And you're going to be very surprised. Nobody will see that there's anything in it, not really, but they will taste it. And it's a taste which hits you in the back of your mouth. So you eat it first, you taste all the chocolate over the nice cool ice cream, and all of a sudden you hit the heat on this. Okay, we need to move a little bit. Jennifer, let's finish this here quickly. Let's finish our 2 recipes, and then we put it all together, and then we're ready to go. I need the next recipe for the next dish, please. Yeah. Okay, pico de gallo, right? Mm-hmm. Pico de gallo. Again, look at the colors. Green, red, and white. Mexican flag, right? The whole idea is that people recognize this. Okay, consists of tomatoes, onions, chilies. Again, the prep takes quite a bit of time. Lemon juice, salt to taste, cilantro, combined with the tomatoes. And guess what? I'm all done. Ready to go. Okay, so while I'm mixing this, I'm going to make over here the chuletas. I want to show you quickly how to make the chuletas, and I'm going to use it with some grilled pineapple. And you see again, you know, this is like a super fast dish to make. Everybody loves pico de gallo on a toasted piece of bread or bolillos. Has a very beautiful flavor profile, nice and fresh ingredients. And again, look at the beautiful colors. And it's that simple. Okay, it's about proportions, it's about ideas, it's about putting it all together. Okay, so chuletas. What are chuletas? Well, it came to a big surprise to me that my favorite meat, obviously, is smoked pork chop. And when I was in Mexico 2 years ago, we actually did a lab experiment where we actually smoked the pork chop. And we, to my surprise, they just looked like they were made for me. So these are called chuletas, which is nothing else than smoked pork chop. You find them here in the grocery stores. What you do want to do is, you want to take, I need to step out of the picture for 1 second, a little bit of oil to put in your preheated pan, not too much. Now, because this is smoked pork loin, you want to make sure that they just heat up. They not need to be cooked. They're already pre-cooked. So they just need to be heated. You can actually eat this cold, or you can eat this. You can get this in the store as a cold cut. So you want to do this. We also have some pineapple. The skill would be cutting the pineapple, cutting the eyes out, talking about the pineapple, where it grows, where it comes from, where it does here in the United States. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our chuleta. You hear the sizzle. The fat is nice and hot, with some grilled pineapple pieces. Okay. And last but not least, let me put it all together, sort of thing. Okay, so we have, Jennifer, would you take this please for me? We're going to reset our table here in a second, and we're going to bring all the stuff out from the refrigerator, the chocolate and everything else, to put it all together, to present to you what we created here in the last couple of minutes. And you know, when you have fun, time flies very fast. I wanted to show you something which I started here, and actually it is a very, very nice way to organize your classroom. You can follow me over here. I went, I think last year, end of last year, I bought myself these organizers, and the organizers are there not because of the brand makes no difference, but I like those because they were stainless steel. They weren't red like you see normally in a car repair shop, they were stainless steel, and I thought this fits perfectly into my way of thinking. So I bought those, and if you can see here, move this maybe to the side. There we go. All my spices are labeled, A to B, A to Z, all labeled right here. I have the next row, I have all kind of cookie cutters, which are available. I have on top, I have brushes, egg cutters, timers, anything you need. Now all of this smallware gets lost very easily. And the beauty of this is they're lockable, so you can lock it away, move it out of the way, put it somewhere wherever you want to, and it's all good. So you can be very organized in what you do. You take inventory of this, you know, I mean, if there's a spice missing, I would know right away because my drawers are full, right? So if there's something missing, if there's something getting low, it's easy to reorder, easy to organize. And again, it teaches the student organizational skills, which really makes it easy. So, let's come back to our little feast here. We have the chuleta just heating through, as well as the pineapple. Okay. We have our tortillas, and here's an interesting thing about the tortillas. When people eat tortillas, there's many ways of doing this. And my preferred way is I just take a piece, I fold in the little tip like so, I fold it over, and it creates a little scoop. Now I can take whatever I have on my plate and scoop it onto my little tortilla chip and put it in my mouth. It's the best way to eat this. Okay, so I have here my chuleta. I have my grilled pineapple, which can go with this. Look at the beautiful rice Jennifer just brought me. Okay, look at the colors. It's called red rice. You see the corn, the peas, and the carrots. Okay, you can put that on the plate. This is already a big plate, right? Big plate. And then you can use some of our salad. I'll give it another quick toss, making sure that all the flavors are well incorporated and marinated. Okay, take this. Okay, there we go. I may or may not, and I'm running a little bit out of time here, but never mind, we can still talk about it. The queso fresco, which is a very popular cheese throughout Mexico. You can take it and crumble it over the top. This can also be used for quesadillas and burritos. You could even put it between nopales and oven fry those. Looks beautiful like this. And then, you mustn't forget one of my favorite things, right? The ice cream. And I may need a glass if you have one, Jennifer, so I can use it. This is a special ice cream, dulce de leche ice cream, which has a caramel flavor to it, but it makes a nice combination with our hot chocolate sauce. Actually, it's not hot, it's just chocolate sauce, which I use over here. You can pour some of this over the top, and it doesn't have to be too much. Remember, there's a lot of heat coming, so you don't want to put too much heat for people who are not used to eating all of this hot stuff. Okay, a nice glass for our hibiscus tea. And again, I'm so happy with this color and beautiful. Look at this, isn't that beautiful? Beautiful color. And serve it with our homemade tortillas. And then the pico de gallo you can serve on the side as you please. So you actually created a whole meal by doing all of this. What are we missing? How are we doing on time? Are there any questions from our listeners? No, that's not a good thing. Or is it a good thing? Who knows? So anyway, to recap the whole thing, we talked about Coca-Cola, we talked about, we still need to do this, our hot chocolate, because I want to show you how beautiful the hot chocolate is with the addition of some whipped cream or blob of whipped cream on the top. And you know, especially now, it's a season for warmer drinks. The chocolate has fully dissolved, and I really wish you could smell these flavors of the cinnamon and the vanilla in the hot chocolate. It's just amazing. It reminds you of the holidays. It reminds you of traveling to this beautiful country and make it all come together in a beautiful way. Now again, it's not a good idea that people are over-ambitious and come up with 10 different dishes, doing 10 different things in a short period of time. You're making your life difficult. Keep it simple. Make a dish, make a pico de gallo with some tortillas. People have something to eat. Make the hot chocolate. Talk about whipping cream. Look at this. Talk about how to whip cream, how you source different ingredients and where they come from. There we go. Talk about hibiscus. Talk about the added sugars in the cokes and the drinks. Talk about the ice cream, the heat, the sensory evaluation. You can talk about a lot of things while you're doing this. And if I look back at this, there's probably enough material to do several classes and several class lectures out of this whole thing. So now all I need is a fork, and I can eat.
Chef, thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I wish those of you in the audience could have all of these beautiful, beautiful smells. I really can hardly wait till I get a fork and a spoon.
I'm excited to
yes.
eat.
Yes, and Jennifer, she's in the back room doing all the
Getting
prep.
the forks.
Getting
the forks. Here it is.
Thank you so much. Those of you who were at Leadership and Management last summer, at least a few of you were able to attend Chef's what was it?
Fruit carving, fruit and vegetable preparation.
Garde manger. And Jennifer also helped us with that, and we're perhaps might be able to do that again this summer for those of you who are able to go to Leadership and Management Conference, which will be in Garden Grove, just down the street from Disneyland, the 19th through the 21st of June. And we hope to see you there. Thank you very much for viewing today. And those of you who have actually been on the live view, if you would just shoot me an email, I would appreciate it so that we can know how many of you we've had in the audience. It's kind of different from our other webinars where we know how many people are there. But we hope that you have enjoyed this. And again, I want to thank you both very much. They put a lot of hours into this. And I also want to thank Eric and Randy for making it possible for us to have this live and recorded.
And as they say in Mexico, buen provecho.
Yes, in a German accent. Thank you. Thank you all very much. And good afternoon.